Pleasure to be here. I've spent the last 25 years of my life basically doing one thing, working with leadership teams, facing some version of change and disruption in their market, either the external disruption or the internal change in response, and see if they can turn that change, that disruption, into opportunity, right? And as a result of that work, I found myself in some pretty interesting rooms over the years. And I was thinking today about like a couple of examples that might set up the kind of key insights today, which is what does it take to truly elevate and accelerate your growth. And I'm going to give you the like negative example, then I'm going to give you the positive example. So it's September 2017. I'm here in the US. I'm in Texas, and I'm working for the largest food and consumer packaged goods company in the world. And it's a very small meeting. It's about 20, 25 people, and it's the CEOs and market presidents and CMOs of their 5 largest clients. So these are the big grocery retailers. So in the US, that's a Walmart, et cetera. We got Canadians in the room, right? So you think like Loblaws, Metro, Sobeys kind of version, but here in the US, right? And the reason they were in the room is they were having an emergency strategic meeting because they'd lost 35% of their market value in 45 days. That's $21 billion of enterprise value, like wiped off their balance sheets. From what I understand, if you steal a car in America, you go to jail. You wipe $21 billion off people's long-term retirement savings account, you get to have an emergency strategic meeting with me. There's something wrong with that disincentive, wouldn't you say, right? So, by the way, for the people from the US, does anyone remember what happened in like mid-2017 that drove the destruction of value in grocery retail? Does anyone remember what happened? Amazon bought Whole Foods, exactly. So we're in the room, and like we're literally talking with the CEO, the market presidents, and the CMO, and we spend a whole day dissecting consumer trends, home delivery, all the things that are changing their industry. And at the end of the day, I say to the CMO of an $80 billion business, I'm like, what's your basic conclusion about what happened? She says, quote, all I know is you can't hold us responsible because we never saw it coming. Unquote. I'm like, were you asleep at the wheel? Like, what do you mean you never saw it? No, I totally didn't say that. I was like, oh my gosh, that's such an interesting perspective. Because I wanted to get invited back to next year's emergency strategic meeting, right? Which subsequently I was, but different story. And I'm like, are you out of your, like, I've dedicated my life, and it turns out a marriage as well, to understanding change and disruption and how it impacts companies. And so when someone says that, it like disrupts my nervous system, right? So I'm perfectly polite to her. I start driving back to DFW, and I'm texting an analyst in our Denver, Colorado office, John. I'm like, John, I just had this interaction. It's really bugging me. Like, I'm going to give you 3 months off client deliverables. And I want you to dive into all of the market trends in grocery retail and tell me if I never saw it coming is a reasonable response. Now, I don't think it's going to take him 3 months, but let's say it takes him 6 to 8 weeks. 13 minutes later, like I'm not even at TSA pre yet, right? He starts like blowing up my phone with a bunch of text messages from stuff he found with a Google search. And so I put them on a slide for you today, right? Check these out. So the first text I get, if we go to my slides, first text I get from this guy is 2016, Amazon releases their wickedly prime food brand. That's not vertical integration, but it's like white labeling and an indication, I would say, they're taking food pretty seriously. Would that be a fair statement? Same year, they launched their Amazon Go grocery store. You probably saw it at MSY when you landed earlier this week, like Hudson, powered by Amazon, these RFID, near-field communications platforms that allow them to do retail but with no humans, right? They had already announced 2,500 new stores by the time they buy Whole Foods. 2015, the GMA, this is the peak industry body, runs a headline saying, don't freak out, but Amazon are coming, and we're going to have to find a way to compete. But just in case 2 years isn't enough notice, 2007, 10 years before the transaction, they launched their direct-to-consumer business, and they're in 35 US states. Now, if you were lucky enough to own Amazon stock for those 10 years, every year a credible analyst said something like this. If Amazon could get closer to the consumer, the last mile challenge is what they call it, because all their distribution's on the outskirts of major metropolitan areas. So like if they could get close, they'll be unstoppable in fresh food. When you're a $1 trillion company, how do you solve your last mile challenge? Buy anyone you want. In fact, buy all of them if you want, right? Like outside of Walmart, no one would have blinked on their balance sheet if they did that transaction. 11 years before they start selling food, 18 years before they buy 35% of an online grocery store. Would it be fair to say there was some signal in the noise? But don't hold me responsible, I never saw it.